Hello everyone, my name is Yuri, and I will try to show you a project that I'm working on for spare time, and it is called the social network, something like maybe Facebook, but not really. I'm just trying to learn a new language, relatively new language for me, that is called Go, and I'm practicing with developing something like a social network um, for no special reason, but I think that Go is very good choice for writing a social network or something like that, and I'll try to show you what I have done and a little bit on the process of doing that. So you can see the social network as it is now. It doesn't look too pretty, and it doesn't offer too much functionality, but for example, I have online users, and I have 3 browsers that are open, and you can see that I am logged in as different users in 3 browsers. And for example, I have live online users, which means that, for example, when I log out for one of them, they disappear in all other sessions. So if I log in, then I instantly appear as online on all tabs that are open. I also have some beginnings of messaging system, but it doesn't really work now because I only started to do this. So that's it. Sorry, I had to check that the recording was okay. So let's show the code maybe. I use Sublime Text as a desktop as an IDE for Go, and I have plugin Go Sublime installed, and it offers auto-completion and some neat features like automatic formatting of the source. And I also wrote a little program in PHP that is called Rebuilder. Everything that it does is listens to notifications of changes in file system and building the server and then launching it. That's it. So it is working now in background, and you can see some MySQL errors, strangely. Okay, so I was writing messages system, and we can probably open developer tools and see that some errors are here. I don't really remember what was it, so we have an error that says that element not found and some div. I don't really remember how I managed to get HTML code as name of element. Okay, let's see. There is console trace method in JavaScript that allows you to see how we got there. So redraw users function is what caused the error, and we can see that probably this is the reason why we got an error. I'm not too good at JavaScript. Let's see. Element not found, but it's strange that it doesn't log it doesn't log the element that I wanted. So maybe add event. Okay, so add event accepts element ID, not the element itself. So I would probably get that. I will now get that we need to open messages for some person. So like, I don't know where it is printed actually. Show messages method is called when we press some name with whom we would like to open messages. And we have a MySQL structure, the user ID from, user ID to, and user ID, which is the key. So the idea is that when someone wants to write a message to other person, we insert two rows. One is about that you sent a message. For example, you want to write a message to John. So we insert two records. One is that you wrote the message to John, and then the second row would be that John received the message. This allows us to show messages that are sent by a user and messages that are to be received by a user by doing just a simple query by using user ID. So let's try to do that. So when we ask to show messages, we should actually do the following. First, we need to send a request that should be handled by our server. The request is to get messages, and we already have the constant request get messages. So everything that we need to do now is to get that event, and I have already written some code for that. So if request type is request get messages, then we should do something. And the idea behind that is that we need to send event to event flow. Alright, so let's try to actually read our request first. So the request is sent in the following format. You have to you have to specify sequence ID, request type, and request data. So request data is JSON, and in request get messages we should see user2, dateend, and limit. So we allocate new request get messages and then ask package JSON that we are yet to import. Package JSON to unmarshal, request data to get message request. So we got an error, and if it is real error, then we should reply that cannot unmarshal request. So, and send an error message. You can see that in a reply statement we actually do not really use too much different code than we should do something like reply error, send error, for example. And what we should do here is to specify the sequence ID that is int, sequence ID int, and probably the listener, that is receive channel, that is channel of empty interfaces, and actual message that we're going to send. And that's all. So we should insert sequence ID here, message, and receive channel. So it becomes something like send error, sequence ID, the received channel, and message is cannot unmarshal JSON. And we get rid of duplicate code this way. So we send an error here with a different message. It is invalid request type. So if we did actually unmarshal correctly, then yeah, unmarshal returns error, and that's it. You can see here. So if we did succeed, then what we need to do is to execute a statement with the query data. So we need to do something like that. Statement equals get messages statement, and we query it, and we pass the parameters that are needed. So it is user ID first, so it is get message request user 2, then it is when date end, and actually date end could be 0. So actually date end should be relative. Or no, we shouldn't do it relative. So if it is 0, then date end is unsigned int 64. So if it is 0, then we need to get current timestamp. It is required so that the server doesn't, so that the client doesn't send us current timestamp, because it can be different from the server timestamp, and clients are not required to have the same time zone and timestamps that we do. Alright, so we should execute it with the last the starting timestamp, and actually a limit as well. And limit should be verified. So limits can be taken from the structure, but if it is more than max limit, then we limit it to max limit. And max limits we define as, for example, 100 max messages limit. We define as 100 records. If it is less than 0, then we send an error. If limit is less than 0. Actually, we shouldn't just accept 0 as well. Shouldn't be, must be greater than 0. So we're trying to execute this statement. And if we got an error, then we should report it to user. We shouldn't tell user about what happened. We should print it ourselves to log and continue. By doing that, we ensure that user doesn't see SQL errors. That would be very neat, I think. If we got the statement executed, we need to read the result, and sadly I don't remember it too well, so we should take a look. We get a result, and what we do with the result, I don't get it, sorry. So no, we do query, and in query we get rows, and with rows we do rows next. So it should look something like, yeah, we should close it actually. Oh. So it closes rows close automatically if we advance to the last row. So we actually don't need to do this. So actually we can use this. So while we have more rows, we can do something. So we should make our reply, and reply in our case is reply get messages. So, and we can set sequence ID to request sequence ID, and what else? In base reply we need to set the type of reply. So reply type is reply messages list, and reply messages should be an array of messages. So what we do is like message we actually should say that we have message and timestamp. So for message text and the string and message ID actually also is a thing. So yeah, so we'll try this to do this. So we define the message and scan rows to get messages. So we say that message text message timestamp. If we got some error, then we just print it and continue. So something like that. And we append the results to reply messages. And then we send a reply So we send a reply to user, and hopefully this is it. Let's try to add some messages actually. So for example, the first user, the user ID 1, has sent a message to someone. So something like hello world, and now we should see that if we request it, then everything is going to work or not. So to show message, we need to do the following. So we should request set some global variable that would define the request ID that we're sending, and so send request should contain request, and on receive function we will not worry about errors now at the moment. So what we should do then is WebSocket write, or WebSocket send maybe. So request should be JSON encoded. So JSON stringify and we send the actual request, and what we should add to our request is sequence ID. So sequence ID is the sequence ID that we had currently, and we then increase it and put it into our request. So when we receive something, we should say that when we receive answer to our query, we should be able to find it. So we put receive callbacks with our sequence ID to some array, and then when we got some message, we call that callback. So on message at the moment doesn't do much, so we should now see that when we ask to show messages, we would receive some result. So the request is structure. So it has to have sequence ID that is automatic, and then type request get messages, and request data is JSON. So it would be something like that. Request get messages is user2 is actually ourselves, or not? No, user2 is user for which we would like to see the user with which we would like to see the messages. So date end we don't fill actually, and limits is like, for example, 5. And that's all. It should be enough to get something started. So we can't find variable WebSocket. No. Shouldn't be local variable then. So let's see. Oh, our application didn't start actually. So you can't use undefined sequence ID in line 275 of main Go. 275 sequence ID. Cannot use request data. Sequence ID undefined. Missing len argument to make message. So 0. And undefined message. Oh, I see. So now we had success, and we received an object cannot unmarshal string into Go value of type uint64. I'm not sure why it is, but let's try to see. Where is uint64? String. Oh, I think I know what it is. So we should use only digits. So numbers should be represented as numbers, not as strings. So we got empty array. Not too surprising actually, but it works. So we could now try to call our callback, else if reply type equals event user reply, then we can do something. So what we could do is call some callback that actually wasn't specified here, function with response, So if no reply sequence, if no receive callbacks sequence ID was set, then something weird happened. And we should log that. Otherwise, we need to call the callback and forget about that element. And if we don't get, if we have an error, then just an error comes. If we have closed WebSocket, then we reopen it with a timeout of 1 second. So we should also clear the receive callbacks, because when we have closed connection, then probably no answers will be received. It doesn't make any sense. So show messages then, and show the response. So let's see how it works. Reply messages list. I'm not sure that's oh, actually it sends reply messages list. But there is no need to, yeah, you don't need separate type. All other types should just be callbacks. It should work better, probably. Yeah, show messages, but undefined, because we didn't pass any arguments, which should be fixed now. So show messages and an empty object. Sadly empty. Let's try to look into what queries are we sending actually. So let's see a request that we're sending. So we sent a request. User to null. Oh, user to null is pretty good, yeah, I think. So like message with empty string, maybe something like that. We still got messages with empty string. So we ask now for messages to user 1. We still got empty array, but at least we pass the query. Now it is time to see what is wrong on server. there are no errors about not working queries. So what it should be then is that our query is incorrect, maybe. So let's see what are we working with. So we should print the arguments. So we can see that, so first thing is user2 and date end. I can see where the problem is, probably Unix Nano. Should use time Unix first. So maybe, yeah, it wasn't really right to use the Unix Nano method, because it returns timestamp that is greater than maxint, and it is not Unix timestamp anyway. So we now received the messages, but actually there is issue with the structure that I used, because there is no key for user ID 2 or from. So actually we don't need to have this structure. So we need something like user ID from and to, but not actually not actually that. So we need to have like user ID and user ID maybe 2, and we should have a flag that's, is it incoming or outgoing. So is message type. So message type is enum, that is in or out. So if we have in message, in message, then user ID is the user ID that's received message, or if it is out message, then it is user ID that sent a message. So if we want to get the history of some user, we have to make a query that has user ID and user ID 2, and we need to have both inbound and outbound messages. So we probably need to do something like that. We need to have to re-add the index, and it should be something like that. So we have index over user ID and user ID 2, and timestamp. This way we can select messages that are directed to some user or are sent by ourselves to some user using a single query. So what the real query should be is what the real query to select messages should be is that we specify user ID and user ID 2. Sorry. So we specify the user ID from and to. And this means that we need to specify the first argument as well, and so info should contain a map. Yeah, we should get user ID, maybe just ID. So yeah, user info, ID, that should be actually converted to int, but to integer, but MySQL will do it for us automatically, so we don't need to bother about it. So where user ID is user ID from is ourselves, and now we actually have, for example, we send message to user ID 2 with text hello world. And what we now should see is, couldn't prepare messages, user ID from. There is no insert into messages, so we say that we send message user ID 2, and we say that it is outgoing. Actually no, it is we need to do two inserts, so it's message type, it is user ID 2 and message type. So the message type, and we don't need to specify timestamp, as it always now. We need to do a couple inserts. So first insert is that we send message to someone, and the other one is that we received message from someone. So yes, so we fixed the server. You can see that all clients are connected because of a little hack that we use, that we reconnect on WebSocket close. So what we should now see is that when we ask messages to user 2, we receive an array of objects of messages that we send, and we can try to make it prettier. So when we receive the response, we should actually check that we still need the response. But let's not think about it now. So when we receive the response, we need to make something to show the messages. So show messages response. So what we should do is make an array where we would put our HTML, at least for now. You shouldn't do this using HTML. You should create DOM elements or use some kind of template engine that I do not currently use. So, but I think that we will fix that later. So messages, and actually, yes. So for var I equals 0, so we should write some text here. So it would be like, I don't know, like maybe text. So I think that's enough. So we have messages texts. We have messages texts array, and received response for missing sequence ID. Oh. Oh. Hello world. So I think it works. So message should be something like let's make some style. Yeah, you see we have excellent styling. So here here is one message. Of course, if we add more, it is outgoing message, but we do not distinguish them. So we just shouldn't actually do inline blocks. So we order by timestamp descending, and actually this is probably not what we should do, or maybe it is. Usually people would like to see your messages to see their messages not inverted. So one way to do this is to do something like this. So we iterate it in reverse. So messages are shown as they are shown in direct order. So we could so we reverse it, but the problem that we get is that if there are more messages than our limit, then we won't see other ones. So the solution is pretty simple. You should just query more than you need. So for example 6, and if we get more than 5 messages, then we suppose that there are more. We show only 5 messages and show more button. maybe not button for now, but we show that there are more messages. So if we delete them, we leave only 5, then no more button shows. So when we show that we have extra, then we can then query and make an additional asynchronous query, and loads the rest of messages. So the benefit of doing asynchronous queries is that we can actually process the request in background. So we can turn it into a separate function, process get messages, and the only thing we need to do is to resolve the dependencies, and dependencies are not very hard to resolve because it only is the request, and that's all. Maybe user ID as well. We should better do a pointer instead of direct structure. And so we should get user ID. So user ID is unsigned int64. Probably I should declare type user ID, but for now I will use unsigned int64. Should be enough for any size social network that we can probably. Oh yeah, and we need sequence ID and receive channel. So sequence ID and receive channel is not hard to obtain. So sequence ID has type int. So and the receive channel is of type channel interface. So we will use sequence ID instead of request sequence ID everywhere. And return instead of continue. And if I have done everything correctly, then we can say go process get messages into sequence ID, receive channel, and user ID. And for user ID I would need to use something like So we need to import string convert. Let's try it. Strconf parse int parse unsigned int. Base is 10 and bit size is 64. And if error occurs, then we can always write something like cannot parse user ID, which means that we have corrupted data in our memcache, and so we should log about that. Corrupt memcache entry, memcache user info. Let's see if it compiles or not. Oh, it doesn't, because it says that no sequence ID. Oh, sequence ID int. I'm sorry. Yes, so seems to work. What it allows us to do is that we do not depend on when the request is satisfied, so we can send a lot of requests and all of them would be served in parallel, executed in parallel, and we will get the first results that the server could send us. So it is good in that if we have some long-running queries, we can do something else, and I think it's a very good thing that we can send. We can even send two queries, one for small amount of messages and one for big, for example. So the main thing is that we process messages in parallel, so, or maybe asynchronously. I think that it is important that we have a protocol that allows us to do this. Alright, so I'm not sure if you understood something or if it is valuable, but thank you for watching, and maybe we will see you in some time in the future. Goodbye.